Hey there, CUT Collective. It is Reverend Sheree here with a new Sunday Sermon Rewind. So, what we do here each and every week is that we take the lesson sermon from the previous Sunday and we start to just dive into it and to unpack it. Now, this Sunday, we have Reverend McDowell here in the hot seat, and Reverend McDowell went on vacation. You know what I mean? Because he deserves that. And so we're actually going to rewind from 2 Sundays ago because we have to make sure that we deal with every single aspect of prosperity. And so this week, I'm going to give you Reverend Gaylon. He's talking about imagination and prosperity. And then we will rewind this past week's sermon next week. So just flow. It's all good. We're making sure that you get all that we can give you in order to open your mind to prosperity, because it is important that you understand who you are and what your inheritance is. And then how to access that good, because I think that Reverend Gaylon really gets into that with this particular lesson. Am I back on? Okay, I'm hot again. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Reverend Gaylon on. But before I bring him on, I want to make sure that you understand the rules of the game, right? So this is an interactive session. So if you're watching with us live on YouTube or on Facebook, know that you can ask questions in the chat and we will take those questions and work them into the conversation. You're also welcome to share this, take right now, wherever you are, go ahead and hit the share button. Let other people know that we're having this conversation. Trust me, it's going to be really dynamic. And we just appreciate you in advance for doing that. So you can share this. You can put your question in the comments. And second to that, come on and join the collective. All that you have to do, if you're on Facebook, you can join the collective on Facebook and be a part of our private Facebook group. We're still ramping up and gearing up with that Facebook group content. But it's been really good. And then I'm planning on, I'm just finding a launch date, but we're going to launch a WhatsApp group for those who aren't on Facebook. And, for our team overseas, WhatsApp is the app that their app of preference. So we're going to make sure that we have community building on WhatsApp as well. All right. So without further ado, let me bring Rev on in.
Hey there. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well.
Good. It's so good to see you. It's good to see people clicking in here. And I'm going to dive us into this lesson. So one of the things that I really like about the fact that we have these lessons recorded, right, is that you can go back and really kind of you get the first impression, but then you can let it sink in. So what I'm hoping for is that you'll hear our conversation and then actually go back and listen again, because I always get a blessing out of doing that. I want to just plant that little seed for everybody to do that. But kicking this off, tell me, your topic was imagination and a prosperity, the abundant life. Imagine your
abundance. Yes.
And I know that I even have a little thing there. Abundant life. Imagine your abundance. So in this lesson, you talk about, of course, imagination in here, but I want to just kick off with this question, because you asked a really powerful question at the top of your sermon, which is, what are you willing to settle for? Mm-hmm. What are you willing to settle for? And I wanted to bring that to the conversation. And just in your point of view, how do you know if you are settling or if you are living the life you want to live? How do you determine the difference?
Well, I don't think it's a complete thinking thing, and I don't think it's completely a feeling thing. I think it's both. When everybody has ideals, and then, like all people that are on the planet Earth, they're faced with responsibilities, accountability, etc., bills. And then they have to start asking themselves, okay, is this the life that I'm really happy with? Am I happy with this life? I'm not saying that, that my life or anybody's life won't have challenges and growth opportunities, but in general, am I trending towards what I want or am I not? And this is where feeling comes into play, because once you get in your ideal, your picture of what it is that you think you desire for a life, then you have to ask yourself a question. How close am I from my ideal? So say, for instance, this is the ideal, and this is where I am. The further away I am from my ideal, we tend to be less happy.
Yeah.
The closer we are to our ideal, we tend to be happier. So the question then comes into play is either I change my ideal or I get to work on getting closer to the ideal, because, or stop complaining. I guess that would be the third option.
Then there's that part.
Stop complaining, because this is what you have settled for. This is what you've resigned your life to be. So I think we all have to ask ourselves the question, like, okay, how far am I away from where I think I should be at this stage of my life? Mm-hmm. Now, don't kick yourself in the behind about it, because that can have a lot of variables. But the question is, am I trending towards it, or am I trending away from it? And this is why Imagine Your Abundance is so important, because as you start to look at your life, when you start to think about what your ideal life should be, before you get a feeling, you have an image. And those images are driving those feelings. So are you feeling as though you're being drawn to those images or not? And here's the real challenge. When people have not even imagined the possibility of a better life.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets really rough, because that's when you know you settled. That's when you know you're resigned. That's when you know you're stuck. That's when you know you're going in the opposite direction from your happiness, because you can't even ponder the thought, the image, the picture of better.
Right.
Once you get there, you're really stuck.
So that was the when I started thinking about that, because that question of, what are you willing to settle for is one of those gut punches. Mm-hmm. And I think that the spaces where I just personally was like, okay, wait a minute, am I settling in this area of my life or in this area? What I realized that there are places I had not got a clear picture. Right. And so that feeling of not achieving the desire is really linked to not having a clear picture. Mm-hmm. So for me, that was for my personal, what came up from that question. So I want to encourage you all to listen. And this is key, because sometimes the reason we're not moving forward is we don't have a destination. We don't know what we want, and so just to ask these questions, when you hear one in the sermon, those are the ones I write in my journal, because I want to work with those questions. The lessons I want to unpack, but the questions sometimes are like the key that unlocks the door for me.
Right.
You had a powerful key point, right? About what you can see. I'm going to play that and we'll unpack it a little bit.
Okay.
If you can see it, you can be it. If you can't see it, you can't be it. I don't care how hard you work for something that you can't see. Often we do the work, but we don't have the vision. We don't have the imagination. We don't have the mentality for what it is we say we desire. One of the main reasons why your faith and imagination are so important is because they allow you to see a preferred life and help create it.
So in this particular clip, you are linking faith and imagination together. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's really kind of kicking off what we talked about with that opening question. If you can see it, then you can be it. So when you say see it, share with me what you mean, because I want to make sure that we're getting, like, is this that I'm writing out my goals? Is it that I'm getting that I'm visualizing? Like, how do I get to even see it?
Well, this is why I try to tie faith and imagination together, because they're tied together in definitions, but it's not necessarily overt. So when I say see it, I mean, in your mind, can you see yourself experiencing that which you desire in it? So for instance, Neville Goddard says it this way. I think it's a great way of explaining it. He said, there's a difference between seeing a ladder and seeing your hands on the rungs as you climb the ladder. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, can you see your hands on the rungs? Can you see your feet walking through the sand? Can you see yourself experiencing that which you desire? So part of the picture is you in it. It's not just that it's possible, but it's possible for me. That's a part of actually seeing it, seeing yourself on the stage. You've heard me say this before. When I was sitting at Christ Universal Temple in the middle section of the top balcony while there were speakers coming to and fro, and there were times when I was like, yeah, I could get that person. If that person's up there, I know I could get up there. Not knocking anyone else, but sometimes, we would have a guest or two that were not, in my opinion, up to the standard of Reverend Coleman and her ministers. So I saw myself on that platform preaching those sermons well before I ever had the opportunity to do so. But I had to see myself as a possibility. So when it was time for me to do it, I was on go time. Like, I've lived this experience so many times in my mind that it's nothing. I'm ready and hungry to go do it. That's the difference. That doesn't mean you won't have any butterflies or anything of that nature. That's natural if you want to be excellent. But if you've played that picture in your mind over and over again to the point to where you can see it and you can feel it with conviction, you've already lived it. That's why I use the term, it has to be a living reality in you.
Right. There's an experience I had where it would be that I could see it in my mind, but for some reason I felt like everybody wanted the same thing that I wanted. Like it was like I was in such rich competition with everybody else in my mind. And so I had to work through that. Like, so it because I found out that everybody didn't want to be up there.
Yeah.
That was not everybody's goal, was to be there. So that was a major growth moment for me, that what's mine is mine, and that there is a calling on me there. I mean, and I'm not even speaking specifically about ministry, but that desire, that calling, that urge within you is your unique urge. It has nothing to do with anybody else.
Right.
You talked about faith, right? So one of my favorite definitions, where we talk about the link between faith and imagination. Faith is the perceiving power of the mind, right? So that's one part.
Right.
And then it's linked with the power to shape substance. And that's where imagination hits in there. So how does your faith and your imagination work together for this spiritual assurance, for this power to do the seemingly impossible?
So faith, I'm using a different terminology than we normally use. It's right on in alignment with truth. But I believe faith is the possibility faculty. So even if you see a thing, can you believe that it's possible for you? All right. So faith allows you to see something and believe that it's possible. Jesus talked about faith more than he talked about any spiritual faculty. Why? Because he understood that unless you can work with ideas in your mind, unless you can unclothe the ideas in your mind and see what the possibilities and the potentialities are for you in your life, then it doesn't make a difference what God shows you through your imagination. Because imagination does two jobs, which I really didn't drill down in on this sermon because it wasn't the point. We can be active in our imagination. In other words, we are seeking to actively imagine something, like with the vision board that I created, or spirit can project upon the screen of imagination an image of what's possible for you. But now, what do you do with that possibility? This is why I added the extra definition that was further down for faith by Charles Fillmore. The faith is the deep inner worth. Is a deep inner worth. I don't know if that's how I wrote it.
Faith is a deep inner knowing. It should say deep inner knowing.
Yeah, I'm about to say it's a deep inner knowing. I was like, I don't think that's how I wrote it.
Deep inner knowing. That's a typo. That's
it's all good.
Typo.
Okay, yeah. So faith is a deep inner knowing. All right, that which is sought is already ours for the taking. So even though faith is more of like a conscious seeing faculty, it's also connected to some level of conviction. It's also connected to a level of knowing. It's connected to a level of realization that that which I see is mine. You know, and that's difficult for people at times, because as you start talking about in the competition of life, that when we say is mine, we're not necessarily always talking about things. We're talking about the concept. We're talking about the consciousness. We're talking about the image. Now, the image can show up in a variety of forms, but let's just say a person is working with prosperity, because this is the prosperity series. Faith allows you to be able to say, okay, we know that there are people in the world that are prospered, have been prospered. Then we know that there are people who don't concern themselves about paying bills month to month.
Mm-hmm.
They exist. Faith says that's possible for me. Faith says I can live out of the abundance and out of the overflow. Faith says there are ideas and the application of those ideas that can bring me into that experience. That's the inner knowing. So now imagination has to form and shape the possibility into a definite image. So when we say faith perceives, this is what I want us to be clear about. Faith perceives the spiritual potential. Faith perceives the potentiality. Faith perceives God's promise. Imagination forms it into a definite thing, so faith can have something more also to work with. So when faith and imagination work together, that's a strong combination. Hopefully I'm explaining this in a way that's helpful and understandable.
Yeah, I think that, so I don't know which author created this distinction between realization, manifestation, and demonstration. Like we use those words interchangeably sometimes, but what you described, I kind of attributed more to realization, like that when you have opened yourself up to possibility and shaped it with your imagination, that you have realized your good, and that the demonstration of your good is the experience of it.
Well, that minister is me, by the way.
No, that's not. I think that might precede you.
I know that, but I put it together: revelation, realization, manifestation. That's me.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you because you're claiming it. But
I can tell you even where I got it from. I took it from two different Charles Fillmore definitions, and I put them together. One of them, in Jesus Christ Heals, he talks about realization precedes manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually, I believe, even that might be a chapter in Jesus Christ Heals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in the 12 Powers of Man, he talks about that which will be taught with is beyond what will be revealed, is beyond the current level of realization. And it's in a foreword. That's not in the exact word. So I was like, wait a minute. So if there's manifestation or demonstration, and you need the realization, then if a person gets a revelation and they try to jump to manifestation, they're trying to skip a step. So all I'm saying is, it's a high probability that you heard me teach that, and I want my acknowledgement.
I'm okay giving that to you. I don't. That's not quite how I got to it, but that you pulled it all together, I think because here's the thing. Remember this as metaphysicians, I'm saying this for all of our benefit, that we're looking at how this works, because what happens is that you have an experience that's amazing, or you have an experience that's horrific, and you don't know how you got there.
Right.
You don't know, how did I get to this place so that I can either never come to this place again, or put something else in the spots and repeat it, right? Yeah. I want to put something else in the equation. So wait a minute, I just had an amazing experience of love and attraction, and so I want that same experience in my health. I want that same experience in my finances. And so if you don't know the formula, then you can't go apply something else. You'll start to feel like the wind has to blow a certain way before you get to what you want. So I think that picking these words apart are important, so that we can understand the process that is behind the experiences that we have. So
yeah, one of the things that I do, since you brought up the terms, all joking aside, I don't need acknowledgement for something. We've been reading the same books for the last 25 years. The people sometimes try to dance around demonstration. Manifestation and demonstration aren't the same thing. In my book, they're the exact same thing. That means it's showing up as experience. And I think sometimes people try to dance around those things as a way to get around new thoughts, definite hardcore stance on the demonstration of truth.
Right.
And this is why, my favorite statement is there is no such thing as undemonstrated understanding, Emmett Fox. Why? Because when I read that statement, it made me realize it doesn't make a difference how many books you've read. It doesn't make a difference how many classes you've taken. It don't make a difference how many masters you studied under. The real test of understanding or realization or knowing is demonstration. And it always will be, regardless of, I was watching something earlier today. It just is a laugh. Not because I know you're in LA. I'm one of the biggest Michael Jordan fans in the world. So I was watching this Michael Jordan fan debate a LeBron fan. They was like, well, Jordan was 6 for 6 in the finals, but LeBron went to 10 finals. And the Jordan fan said, well, that meant he got there 10 times, but he's only won 4. That's less than 50%. He said, yeah, but he got there 4 more times than Jordan. And he said, and the Jordan fan said, are we giving out participation awards now? And that landed with me. Like, okay, well, I got here. That's how we talk. When I studied under Reverend Sheree for 6 years. Okay, I get that. But we're not giving out, the universe doesn't give out participation awards.
Yeah.
Life is consciousness. And it is so high you can't get over it. It is so low you can't get under it.
Can't get under it. Look at there. See there. Don't say there's no funk in New Thought.
Exactly.
So this is powerful. I hope you all are getting some out of it. If you have questions, know that you can add that into the comments and we'll fold that in. Because our intent is to make these principles practical. So we want to make sure that you're understanding this in a way that you can use them. All right. So here's another clip, and this is talking about. I pulled this. This is a personal clip I pulled. This is one of something it's one of my little itches, and it's something that I try to make sure that I share with my students. I play it.
Man's faith in God is measured by his confidence in himself. What is he saying? You can't have a big God and a little you. You can't have a capable God and an incompetent you. And I know that often in religion we're taught to demote ourselves so we can promote Jesus. But you don't have to demote yourself to promote Jesus or anyone else. Jesus is Jesus. You couldn't promote or demote him. The question is not what you think about somebody else. The question is, what do you believe about yourself? This is why Reverend Coleman would say it differently. How big, y'all know the rest, is your God? We often limit the possibilities because of our little God that we're praying about stuff that we can go across the street to Jewel and pick up.
So many great nuggets in there. That this idea of, this is why when we talk about principle, we know about the goodness of God. The goodness of God is an easy one to wrap your mind around, right? Mm-hmm. The allness of God. I mean, we can share that. It doesn't have any kind of, we don't disassociate from that. But to say that you're made in the image likeness, that you are divine, that you're good, that you're a reflection of divine, that you have those characters, is a stopping point. And so, and a difficult thing to get over. And I think that what you shared is this idea of a big God and a little you. Oh, we got to murder it. We got to murder that idea. Because I don't know. I think that there's something that is leftover residue from that martyrdom tradition, that part of Christianity that many of us have embedded in us. It's like residue from that. Mm-hmm. And it's time to let that go.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that it's one of the challenges that people have with New Thought. And this is why people tend to of late, well, I would say over the last couple of decades, trend towards what I would call the hybrids. The hybrids would be fundamentalist churches that still teach prosperity and speak the word and, prosperity, etc. Prosperity gospel churches, word of faith. And I'm not knocking any of them. God bless them. Wherever they can get the message, they can get it. But they still get to keep their old concepts of that still work within that paradigm of, the reward and punishment, heaven, hell, God, devil, all that other stuff, and still be able to, study their prosperity and well-being, etc. Because it's hard to give up those old concepts of God. People don't really know what it means to be spiritually free until you are receiving not second and third hand information, but what you've experienced God to be for yourself. And I'm a big believer that mean people have a mean God. Judgmental people have a judgmental God. Frustrated people have a frustrated God. And punitive people have a punitive God. And at the same time, a loving people, prosperous people, happy people tend to reflect a consciousness of God that is in alignment with who they are. Now, God is just principle, the principle of absolute good. The challenge comes into play is, can we accept that? And at the level we can accept it, we can express it.
Yeah.
But if you can't see it, you can't be it. That's why I kept trying to say, if you can't even mentally juggle with the thought that God wants me to live a healthy, happy, and prosperous life, it's very difficult to get to the point of trying to live it. And that's what we're trying to present to people. We're trying to present like in the Matrix. And I know, a lot of people have not seen the Matrix.
Be a better person. Go see
But if you've seen the movie, you know that Morpheus offers Neo the two different pills. One pill, you stay in the illusion, you stay in the Matrix. You're stuck in the story that was created for you that disempowers you. Or you take the other pill and you wake up to who you really are. I think that's what New Thought is offering everyone.
Yeah.
Here's God as principle. God is universal law. God in you. Are you willing to take it and wake up? Because it's some struggle and strain to waking up. Right? Everybody talking about, waking up is great. When you don't have someone else to blame, it's his own thing.
Listen, New Thought is not for the faint of heart. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. This approach to God is not for the faint of heart, because you must call on the courage. You must work with your inner strength. If you can see it, you can be it. And if you can't see it, you can't be it. Is liberating to yourself. But I think that what I found a liberation in is in dealing with other people. That, when if there's somebody that you care about in your experience and they are still, struggling with drugs, can't overcome an addiction that you see as tormenting them. They're not enjoying the addiction. They want to be through it, but they just can't see themselves as being drug-free, right? And so some of it is you may be trying to help them at the wrong space. Where you want to help them is in what they can see. What can I do to help you see a grander possibility? That's where I can maybe support you in. I can, maybe I see you. I start to see you in that light, because if you keep showing up as an addict and I keep calling you an addict, how can you believe that I'm not even believing that you can and bear witness to that there is a greater you that I see. So I think that when I took this and kind of looked at how I was working with my life. I mean, my son turned 22 yesterday, and he's a miracle child because I'm just 25. But I know it's like miracles, right? So I'm looking at listening to him, who has been, just rooted in this. Like this is the only belief tradition that he has been consciously aware of. Not that other things haven't been around him in the atmosphere, but when I listen to him, It is a real interesting thing. And I know you probably have the same thing with Angel, where there's a level of their ability to see their lives that is really indicative of what it means to grab these principles and live from them. It's a powerful thing to see, despite life's fears and things that come up. It's like there's this belief in themselves that just kind of like that big God concept. Like the frustration is they know how big they are, like they know how amazing they are, and they're frustrated sometimes that they're not releasing that potential in a way that they know that they can. Like it's kind of amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's a part of the growth process. You know, when you were one of the statements you made before you gave your son's example about seeing it someone else.
Yeah.
When Reverend Coleman used to have ministers meetings every week before she retired, every week, no matter what the ministerial team met on Thursdays. And she would often say in the meetings to help us recalibrate, all healing begins in the mind of the practitioner. She would say it over and over again. All healing begins in the mind of the practitioner. What she was saying from that standpoint of it is as practitioners of truth, which is what every minister in this movement should be. And not just the ministers, the teachers, and not just the teachers, but the dedicated students.
Yes.
You're a practitioner of truth. She was saying, if you can't see the wholeness, she was using this in the context of healing, obviously. If you can't see the wholeness, then you're not doing anybody any justice.
Right.
You have to, she would say, and I know this is about prosperity, but she would say, if you go in the hospital and you can't get your consciousness behind the tubes and all the other stuff and sensors and things of that nature, you're not going in there doing that person any justice from a truth standpoint. Yeah, you might be a nice visit and chit chat with a person, but can you see beyond what's being experienced? So it goes right back to faith, the perceiving. What are you seeing? What are you seeing as true about this situation? So you go into your banking app and the money says this, and can you see something else?
Right.
While the facts are saying this, can you see the possibility of other opportunities presenting themselves to support you? How can God's substance show up differently? In other words, what do you have? I think Reverend Wells said this in one of his sermons. What do you have in your house? Talking about the lady that was dealing with the prophet Elisha. Mm-hmm. He said, what do you have in your house? Stop and pause for a moment. What talents, gifts, ideas, abilities, people who I know, how can the universe support you if you're not open to what's in your house? It's still an imagination thing. If you can see it, you can be it. If you can't see it, you can't be it. Now, this is where the benefit of someone who is detached from your experience can help you. And what we do as ministers is, because we're not attached to the experience, we can see beyond the experience. And hopefully with high consciousness, help pull people up from a place where they're struggling. Because one of the challenges that comes into play, my wife is in mental health. I know several people around the church who are mental health professionals, and all of them say to a person that the most challenging thing when they are dealing with a client in therapy is the inability for the client to see something else. Mm-hmm. They get stuck in the picture that they're in.
Yep.
So a person can be in therapy for 3 years and their picture never changes. Yep. And the therapist has done everything less than wrestle a gorilla in front of them. Yep. And unless a person wants to be free enough to want to really release the old image and create a new image, it doesn't make a difference what work another person does.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is why Jesus couldn't even heal people who didn't want to be healed. But go ahead. We're talking about prosperity, and I've shifted to healing. So
I mean, because it's all prosperity, right?
Yeah.
Like we know it's all, because we're talking about the mind. So you talked about that you have to accept your living reality. You talked about living reality, and before that, I wanted to just talk about thought really quickly, right?
Right.
That you share thought is mental energy, thinking is imaging, imagination forms and shapes thought into mental form. So one of the things that when we talk about the big God, right? How big is your God? And that you have to be able to see it before you can experience it. That it is this power of thought that we are working with, that you actually are guiding and shaping this mental energy.
Right.
And I think that in the example of the therapist, what we all need to do is examine the picture. We need to examine the picture that we have created for ourselves. Like, what I'm living out of the picture I've created for myself. And I can change that because I have the thinking capacity. And that's what I want for if anybody is feeling stuck in something, because there's some strong stories. I just had a birthday. There's a strong age story that begins to try to tell itself as you start to continue to celebrate birthdays. But regardless of how strong that story is, the power and presence of God that indwells you is bigger. Right. There's a truth that's bigger, but I have to guide that thought energy.
Yes.
And that is what we have the opportunity to do here. And you said this is the last part of that mental form must be accepted in thought, feeling, word, and action to be true as living reality before it comes into form. So living reality is the buzzword that I want to put out there, and I'm going to play your clip and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
You have to not only shape it in your mind, you have to feel it with conviction. You have to accept that it's true for you as a living reality before it ever shows up. You have to accept it as a living reality before it ever shows up. What you think about matters. How you feel matters. What you believe matters. What you say matters. How you behave matters. Right down to your unconscious body language. All of them speak to the real images you have accepted as true in your mind.
So I had to pull that out because that living reality that we talk to us a little bit more about that you have to accept this before it becomes your living reality.
Okay, so I'll go back to a Neville Goddard example. Neville Goddard is one of those New Thought Christian mystics of the 20th century who focused a lot on imagination. And when I was preparing the sermon, I remember reading something. I'm teaching him right now on my podcast, Truth Transformed, with Reverend Gaylon McDowell. And he talks about how when you imagine something, you have to imagine it with your spiritual and mental senses. In other words, just like in physical reality, you can touch, you can taste, you can smell, you can hear, you can missing one. You can, did I say smell?
Touch,
see,
taste, smell, feel, hear.
Yeah, touch, taste, see, smell, hear.
There you go.
So you experience it with all of your five senses, anything, unless something is physically disrupted in your body, all five senses are active. So when you're in an experience in your mind, in your imagination has to have those senses at a mental level working as you are experiencing it. So it's a living reality. It's like waking up from a dream, and the dream seems so real. You woke up like trying to figure out, did that really happen or it didn't happen? Because you can wake up sweating, you can come up anxious, you can have body reactions to a dream because it was so real. Well, I'm saying, or even let's use a example when people are awake. People who have phobias, they can experience something to the point that This little bitty spider walks past, and next thing they think Godzilla is in their room. And they're having all of the, oh my God, heart rate, et cetera, all of the body reactions that are happening, hormonal changes, all type of things can happen. Adrenal glands are dumping and all that. And it's just a small spider, because what's happening in the mind is actually dictating what's happening in the body. So if you can get that worked up over a phobia, if you can get that worked up over watching a presidential debate, if you can get that worked up over a movie or a TV show, I'm saying you can get that worked up about your prosperity.
Yeah.
That it becomes a living reality to the point to where everything that's about you is experiencing it before it ever shows up. And I'm saying if you can't experience it before it shows up, it's a high likelihood that you're not going to experience it in demonstration.
Yeah. And that is, I'm excited to hear that, because when we talk about prosperity, I don't know if I don't know if that idea, using a phobia is a really good example, because we can, like, I'm literally seeing behind me, I don't know if you've ever seen those big Australian spiders, but they were trending on IG for a bit, but they're huge. And I just happened to, I literally saw one in my background. Like, I was like, let that be a spider to be afraid of. But that's how powerful imagination is. And I saw the spider behind me, and yeah, but this idea of around your like, let's talk about your money.
Yeah,
like, I know what it feels like not to have any money and to be afraid of where money's going to come from.
Right.
And so that feeling is, I remember being wrapped up in that feeling, reversing that, and to be wrapped up in a feeling of the abundance of God's goodness and the many channels of abundant supply that are opening to you right now is a practice, something to practice.
Yeah. And here's the thing about imagination that people have to really get. Imagination, and I would also add faith. Imagination is completely illogical. It is completely unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
If you want reason, and I'm not saying the reason doesn't have a place, reason in the context of planning and et cetera. I want reasonable people flying the airplane when I'm in it, or anybody's in it. That's not what I'm not talking about, that level of reason. I'm talking about reason from the standpoint of these are the facts, and this is what the world says based upon information is possible. Imagination says, no, that's not true. Imagination allows you to play in your mind. Mm-hmm. Imagination allows new things to emerge out of the creative source, because you don't have the limitations of being reasonable and logical. There's a place for reason and logic. But here's the thing, just like with phobias function completely out of the imagination, and no amount of reason and logic can convince a person that rope isn't a snake if they really believe that rope is a snake.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So you can come with the most logical explanation in the world, and then you will still lose them. This is telling us, this is a key, that if we can convince ourselves that prosperity is our birthright, and the universe is supposed to support me, and I have infinite channels through which God's substance can show up in my experience, then I open myself up to that possibility, because I'm not being logical. Matter of fact, I would challenge anyone to go read the definition, if you have the Revealing Word, which is also online by Charles Fillmore. He has a definition called the faith thinker, not just faith, but the faith thinker. And he goes through definitions of why it's unreasonable. It's not based upon reason or precedent. He goes through all these different definitions of why, if you're a person who claims you're a faith thinker, you cannot be a person that's based upon precedent and reason and all of these things, human stuff that we say makes sense. Faith doesn't deal with the make sense. Faith deals in possibility that it brings into demonstration. That's the difference. That's why if you can see it, you can be it. And if you can't see it, you can't be it.
Yeah. All right. So I gotta play this clip. So this is about, just to get back to money matters, right? Just to be hardcore in the lane of money. I'm gonna play this one.
Imagine, see, we're talking about imagination. As you bless it, imagine it going to do what it was sent to do and then coming back to you as more money. Imagine every dollar circulating back to you in greater abundance. As Reverend Ike used to say, you aren't spending or getting rid of money. You are circulating God's abundance. You know, Reverend Ike used to say, never use the word spend, only use the word circulate. But he was trying to get people to understand that if it's God's abundance, you don't send it to get rid of it. You send it to do its job for it to come back. And hopefully it's picking up some siblings and cousins on the way back.
Yes. So this idea about circulating wealth, and you followed this up to giving some things to do when you're working with money, and you said to bless it, right? So what are you? If I'm getting ready to pay a bill, what am I blessing? What blessing am I conferring on my?
You're blessing the substance at hand. All right, what you have in visible form. You're giving thanks to God as the giver of all gifts, as the infinite storehouse of supply. You're blessing it to go do his job, to bless the receiver, just like you've blessed yourself as the sender. And as you bless the receiver, you're also blessing the substance to come back to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So the idea isn't that that I have something and then I'm sending it to something, so now I have less. Whether it's in my pocket or it's in the receiver's pocket, it's still God's substance that I have unlimited access to. It's shifting the perspective. That's really what I'm trying to help people understand. It's shifting the perception that when I use my financial resources, that means I have less. Now, the bank account might say you have less. Obviously, I'm not telling anybody to be irresponsible, which I said in the sermon. What I am saying is I'm trying to help people shift their mindset around what's possible for them. That which they use can be blessed to go out and touch other people's lives and then circulate back to themselves. It's here's the thing. When it's all said and done, and this is the simplest way I can say it. The only person you have to convince about this truth is yourself.
Right. That's it.
Everything else, once you get past that, you're winning, because you don't have to convince God. You shouldn't care about what other people think.
Yeah. So here's what I started to think in the middle of your lesson, and then of course as I get the benefit, it is a blessing to be able to go back and really look for questions, which is why I invite you all to do that. Remember, you can ask me questions, put them in our Facebook group, and I will fold them in. I'll pull those specific clips. But what I was getting is that there's work. There is work. There's effort. Let me use that word. There's effort involved in living a prosperous life. And I think that there's a that can be daunting when you realize how steep you may be in not having enough, right? Of whatever the good is, right? Not having enough is a real felt experience. And so this is the intention to say every money exchange. Now, what Rev will do is say for the next 2,000 days, every money exchange, you need to be blessing it like this. I'm gonna say, just do it today and tomorrow, right? See what it feels like to be that intentional with your money, because one of the things we don't do now is, right, I was traveling, and I forget what came up. But I realized that I was traveling. I was in Philadelphia with no cash, like $0 on me. I didn't have change. I didn't have dollars, anything, which is unheard of, right? That you would go traveling with no cash. Used to be unheard of. Yeah. So we're not necessarily holding on to money in the same way or writing out checks in the same way. But you did share, like, hey, bless your digital devices as you are exchanging the money. And so I do want to invite you all into that, because I do have a practice that I'm going to share that from the assignment But I do want to just encourage that let's slow down and bless every money exchange. Maybe if you want to go even deeper, like when I'm working out there, like you want to go beast mode, right? If you want to go beast mode, maybe you bless every time a thought about money comes across your mind. So if it's something that you want to buy or something that you want to give or whatever, when a money thought comes on, that you begin to bless it. He said, bless yourself, right? Acknowledging God as the giver, blessing yourself as the giver, as the person exchanging, blessing the recipient, and blessing the actual substance that it is going to be returned to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over.
Yeah. You said it. I don't have anything else to say about it. You wrapped it up.
That's it. So Dot said, you bless the giver and the receiver to return back to the giver, blessed and multiply. Yes. Thank you for sharing that in the chat, Dot. So again, the work of prosperity. I'm gonna play this one, and I might jump to the assignment. Let's see, because we're running short on time. I want to make sure that we talk through your blueprint.
Okay.
Prosperity is created by intentional plans and action that are supported by an awareness that God is the source of your supply. In other words, prosperity is a planned event. Let's say that together. Prosperity is a planned event. You know, some people just think, well, I'm just going along to get along and everything's just going to work out for me without any plans, without any structure, without any idea, without any vision, without any feeling, without any conviction, without any faith, without any imagination, without any decisions, without any choices being made. That's like being driftwood in the river, expecting abundance.
All right. So the effort, right? But I don't want no effort. I want it to be easy. But you know, this is where we have to dig in. All right.
Yeah.
We got to
Well, I think
in.
it's no different than you want to smell good, you got to get up and bathe. You want, you want good oral hygiene, you have to brush your teeth, you got to scrape your tongue, you got to floss, you have to use mouthwash. If not, you might have some repercussions with your teeth and gums down the line. If you care about how you look and how you dress, it takes intention to pick out your clothes. It takes intention to, get your. I don't have to worry too much about hair, but for those who have to deal with that, I at least keep it cut low so I don't look like George Jefferson. But so my point is, anything that we desire requires some level of intention.
Yeah.
But when it comes time for prosperity, and God's blessings, we just think it's just supposed to run on automatic. The power to create the experiences we desire, and I use those real human examples because everybody knows that that's how that works. It's no different on the mental side of life. Okay, if I want to tap into spirit, I don't tap into spirit haphazardly or by accident. Yes, it's available to me, but it's not pressing upon me. As I've said, and you've heard me say this numerous times, Reverend Wametta Harrell used to say to me, God is not going to shout over your mental noise. So if I'm stuck in my mental chaos, if I'm paying attention to all this outer stuff and what the world says I can and can't have, and I'm not paying attention to spirit, I'm not benefiting from the fact that the presence of God lives in me. I'm not benefiting from the fact that I'm a child of God, an individualized expression of God. So I can suffer with access to the creator of the universe in a moment's notice. I can make bad decisions with God's wisdom already within me. I can financially struggle with God's substance being evenly accessible to everyone. Now, here's the question. Do I believe that I have equal access? Just because my experience has not said that's the case up to now does not mean that I don't have access. What it does mean is I don't know how to get what's mine.
So there's a gosh, that's just so good. There's a it is because it's like it's the best and the worst part of owning your spirituality, right? Is that it's you have to make these decisions, and we're capable of it, like little bit by little bit. Like that's why when I think about affirmations and the repetitive nature of affirmation, like what are you repeating this for? Right. And it is for this purpose. Mm-hmm. It's for this purpose so that you begin to shift your belief.
I consider affirmations, just throw this quick nugget in because I know we got to move on. I consider affirmations similar to it, even though they don't have kids do this now. When we were growing up, we would have to write a page of cursive, A, A, over and over again, B, B, B. So by the time we finished, we've written, all of the cursive letters, uppercase and lowercase.
Yeah.
Over and over and over and over again to the point to where we don't have to think about it. All right. Yeah. So when you're affirming, what you're doing is you're creating a repetitive nature in brain science and calls a neuroplasticity, where you're creating new grooves for the brain. We have resistance because the other ways of passive thinking they're like freeways. And we're paving new roads. We literally have to tear up the old roads. We have to bring all the workers out and pave it concrete and then lay more stuff on it. And then we got to paint the street signs on it. Whereas some of those old ways of thinking, they have smooth freeways where you can drive from California to New York without a problem. We're creating new pathways that are not based upon our past, based upon our culture, not based upon our family traditions, not based upon gender, not based upon what side of the tracks or neighborhood you were born in, not based upon all these other factors that have nothing to do with the simple truth. God is the source of my supply.
Yes.
So after saying that over and over again, it's sometimes necessary to create the mental framework for the ideas of prosperity even flow through your consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so y'all know y'all got to go ahead and share that with somebody, right?
Yeah, that's a good example. It was the first time I ever thought of it. It just popped up in my head.
Yeah.
Because I've created the grooves for truth ideas to flow.
That's right. Got bars today. Just dropping bars. Okay.
Like Rakim.
So this clip is going to set up our the blueprint, and we'll talk about that next. And then I'm asking you all. So I'm gonna have a vulnerable moment with you all, because I gave myself 10 minutes to create my blueprint, because one of my challenges is that I'll overthink something and never finish it. So I figured that, hey, I'll use the rewind to work on my stuff. So here we go. Thanks for being here. All right, so wait a minute. I'm setting this up because I couldn't let these quotes go by. It was too powerful.
I used to say, you must be definite with the infinite. Napoleon Hill wrote, what the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Johnny Coleman said, I am the thinker that thinks the thought that makes the thing. I'm saying to you, you are a spiritual being that is always producing experiences according to the dominant images in your mind.
So the dominant images in your mind, you are I didn't pull this quote, and I should have. But I am the thinker that it's the dominant image in my mind that I am projecting into my life. The dominant.
Yeah, we have a lot of images, but there are images that are dominant.
Yeah.
And the dominant images are the ones that drive behavior. Like you can have some random thought. Anybody can have any random thought or feeling, but it's inconsistent with the way you normally think, feel, and believe. So those dominant images are what's really driving behavior. And we have, using this example, I was sharing with somebody who we were talking about how punitive previous generations were when it came to whoopings. And I was sharing about this rapper DMX that passed away a couple of years ago, talking about how punitive and heavy-handed his mother was, and then the other problems that came out of her issues. And one of the people I sent it to said, man, I was getting whooped with extension cords like him all the time as a child. And I was like, I never knew that. Now, you have this image of what happened to you. Now you can go two ways. Okay, the person I sent it to made sure that never happened with his children. Some people get the image and they are so warped about the image that they perpetuate it going forward.
Right.
So
Right.
hurt, in other words, hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
But hurt people because that's the image they have in their minds.
Right.
All right. So let's look at it from a prosperity standpoint. I'm gonna use a random example. Paris Hilton, for instance, used to be really popular back in the day. Comes from the Hilton family, these hotels that people are all over the world, Hilton. Now, her and her sister, I can't remember her sister, they walked into prosperity, TV shows and pre-social media fame. It wasn't as much effort for them to realize, okay, and I'm not knocking them, I have no demonstrable talent for this money. But what I do have is a Hilton consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not knocking them. I don't know them from Adam.
Yeah.
But what I can say is they have a Hilton consciousness. Okay, not just the money that backs it up, the mentality that backs it up. They believe they're supposed to be wealthy. Now, here's the thing. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, the author of Think and Grow Rich and Black Choice, and so many of the other books on Black wealth, has been writing since the late 80s that Black America, if it was a country, will be the 9th richest country in the world. That's how much wealth passes Black hands in America. All right. So if we thought that we're part of a community that's the 9th richest in the world, how would that psychology shift how we think?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The dominant
image. But what's the dominant image? So the dominant image that's been sold to us is violence and daddies abandoning their children and drug dealing and gang banging and poverty and being on public aid, et cetera, even though statistics will tell us that that's not always consistent.
Right.
But but here's the thing. If I can sell you the image, I don't have to worry about your behavior. Miseducation of the Negro. If you teach a man to go to the back door, and there is no back door, his very nature will compel him to create one. You don't have to worry about people's behavior once they have bought into the image that you have given them. So this was the beauty of Johnny Coleman that people just tend to forget. 1950s Black America, Chicago. Jim Crow laws still in play. Yeah. And she's saying, you are God in expression, and nobody can keep anything from you, including this white nationalist dominance in governance and public policy can keep you from the good that God has prepared for you if you have the consciousness. Mm-hmm. That conversation was radical because the only other person that was having it, very few. It was very few. Reverend Ike or Daddy Grace or some other people. But some of them other people outside of Johnny and Reverend Ike had other things attached to that that, in my opinion, can be problematic. That's just my opinion. They were saying, if you can free yourself in your mind, you can be free. She was selling image. So why have a panorama of truth in downtown Chicago with the Marriotts and the Hyatts and all of that? Because at the time we weren't having those experiences. Why we're going to see Duke Ellington in the 60s? Why are we having the most pristine services of way people look and dress and act and go and do stuff and everything's in divine order? Because she was selling an image that we caught. Those who want it better. And that is our responsibility to make sure that image is in its new context, is presented to the world, that the world is still trying to tell you what's possible for you, whether you're white, Black, Asian, Arab, Polynesian, whatever. They're trying to sell you an image. And we're saying That's not the image that matters. Don't buy into that image. Buy into the image of your prosperity, of your excellence, of your divine order, that you're well loved and you're provided for by a competent, loving creator that created you to win. You were not created to lose. That's a totally different conversation than most people are having in life. I was created to win. I'm created to win.
Created to win.
I'm created to win. So if I'm created to win and I'm not winning, I know that I'm out of alignment with truth. So now I need to get in alignment because I was created to win.
That's it. And
That's
there's
a different image. I know we're going over time now, but I think that system.
You went and got some rest. That system though is what we can duplicate, we can replicate, right? So how to get back into alignment is we can use spiritual tools that will help us shift our awareness and to help us create a new dominant image, right?
That's why I created this.
So I got it. I'm pulling it up, the Abundant Life Blueprint. So just break it down for us a little bit. Then we're gonna and just briefly, because then I'm gonna show you one that we can go through.
Okay, so just the context, really briefly, I was trying to figure out a way to help people understand imagination, how to use it. And I realized some people can see it clearly and some people need some handlebars. So I started thinking back with ways in which we used to do things where we would put something in somebody's hand as a tool to work. So I scribbled this literally in the office I am, and the table, scribbled all of this. I wrote it out exactly how you see it in my poor handwriting and gave it to Robin to send to the graphic designer to create. And that's what you have now. Every last thing on here. So the Abundant Life Blueprint talks about how do you work with the different major areas of your life. So you put a happy picture of yourself in the middle. Why a happy picture? Because you want to see yourself in the center of these intentions that you create. So the intentions could be your spiritual goals. What do you want to accomplish spiritually? Your prayer goals, your meditation, your imagery, that can show up as what you give. Health goals. What do you want to see? Very definite goals. I want to be this weight. I want to be this strong. I want to walk this often. I want to exercise, et cetera, et cetera. I want my cholesterol this. I want my blood pressure that. Whatever the goals could be. Relationship goals. What do you want to see it look like? Okay. Because if you get clear about your relationship goals, you might get clear about that what you're in right now ain't it. Mm-hmm. So so it either needs to be fixed or left. Happiness goals. What are the things that bring joy to your soul? Just in general, you just love to do things that make you happy. And again, obviously prosperity goals. What are your money goals? How much, what do you want to accomplish financially? What do you want to have at different stages of your life? What does that look like? And for some people, it might be real present. Like they need to be able to have enough money for rent. Everything is not Jeff Bezos goals. Right. Sometimes if what's in front of you, it's like Mary O'Malley. She's a guest I've had on my podcast a few times. She wrote a book called What's in the Way is the Way. Mm-hmm. So what I would say is whatever's in front of your life right now should be on the Abundant Life Blueprint. Right. The scripture is to remind you that whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it is yours. In other words, if you can see it, if you can accept it as yours already, and it can be it. You don't pray to get, you pray to with the realization that it's already yours to demonstrate it. If you're praying to get, you're in a getting consciousness versus a knowing consciousness. The affirmation was something simple to help people realign. So the goal was, and then it's signed by God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. You put your name and date there. So this is your covenant that you've made with God. So the idea is you just take 15 minutes a day, start off with your affirmation, affirm your affirmation, affirm your scripture, look at your intentions, hold it in consciousness, see your happy picture of yourself, take it into your meditation time for 10 minutes. As you come out and you get any ideas, goals, or whatever, write them down. But the idea is to get the feeling of what you've written or the pictures. You can put pictures in each section too, however you choose to do it. But the idea behind it is to get clear. First, the thing is get clear, because as you are putting images in these sections or writing intentions in these sections is really getting your mind clear. Again, you must be definite with the infinite, as Reverend Ike would say. As you get more definite, as you get clear, now you can contemplate it. Now you can meditate. Now you can imagine it, experience it as a living reality in your consciousness. Then as you come out, say the affirmation again, say the scripture again, thank you, God. You can say your prayer for protection or however you want to do it to come out of your prayer time, and that's it. But if you do that twice a day, and that whole process takes 10 to 15 minutes, you're actually retraining your consciousness, but specifically your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So that's the gist of it.
I mean, thank you for that. And there's a again, this is from the sermon at Christ Universal Temple on September 22nd. You can find it on YouTube if you want to watch the whole lesson together. I mean, we've broken it down amazingly, but there's still so much that we didn't get to cover here together. So what I decided to do was to put it to the test. Right.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So vulnerable moment for me.
All right.
I created my own abundant life blueprint, right?
Okay.
So in working with this, what I decided to do, because I like to do images, but I wanted to be clear, like to write out what is it really that I'm trying to do. So my health goal is I can do 10 burpees in succession properly and lovingly release 15 pounds of excess fat. Right?
That's very clear.
Okay. My spiritual goal is so I have this thing where I'm open for God's big idea. There's a big idea to emerge through me, but I hear God's big idea clearly and move forward full force in faith.
All right.
That's my spiritual goal. And I want to repeat for everybody, these are my first drafts. I'm still working with this. So but I didn't want to be like my old self, right? Where I would start these things, not finish them, and I would never have a blueprint that I could even begin to work with because I overthink it. Vulnerable moment. I don't know if anybody feeling me on that, but that's where I can be sometimes. My relationship goal. I am a loving, committed, healthy partner, and I let my partner love me lavishly. I have two goals for relationships, because in my friendships, I am a joyful, loving, and constant friend to my top 5. So those are my 2 relationship goals.
You have a great top 5 because I met some of them. Great top 5, by the way.
Thank you. I do. My people's are great. And then my happiness goal, I travel and enjoy the fun of setting my own schedule. So that is a big piece of joy I have discovered, is that controlling my time has been amazing. Makes me very happy. And then from a prosperity space, my money, my business replaces and exceeds my former salary.
Okay.
So I'm in a space of shift, and this is my intent for prosperity, is that my business will replace and exceed my former salary.
Beautiful. Okay. You want my feedback?
Feedback, give it to me.
Okay. I think all of this is great. One of the things that you possibly could add to them is, some of these would be time specific.
Uh-huh.
Like I can do 10 burpees in succession by when, for example. My business replaces and exceeds my former salary by when.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even with that one, by how much.
Okay.
Or better, for instance. Those would be some examples of, I would say, traveling goals. I'm taking this many trips in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
But the health goal and the prosperity goal are the ones I really wanted you just to focus on the possibility of putting some framework around it. If you go to Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, in chapter 2, he gives 6 steps to developing how to achieve a goal. Obviously, his thing was money, but it will work with anything. And one of the things that he talks about is by what and how. I'm not saying you got to have all of that together, because this is one tool. You can use other tools to help it. But I think this is great. I think the picture is very happy, which is my real goal, was happy picture. But here's the thing. I don't want people, and I'm just giving a slight critique. This works for you because it came out of your soul. I'm just saying there's ways to be more definite.
Mhm.
But the idea behind it is to actually get down right and get clear for yourself.
Yeah.
It's a tool. It's not absolute. It's a tool to help you get clear about what you need to be imagining in your mind and experiencing it as a living reality. So those 10 burpees could be experienced in your mind as you're doing your meditation for it in your mind over and over again. So when you go to the gym, okay, it might be 1 burpee, but in my mind, I'm doing 10. And you're working now to it because now you've already experienced it in your mind. And now it's just about doing it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say that definitely works. The main thing is this for everyone who's listening to this live or will listen to it later. Don't deal in perfection. He has to be the exact same words. Just do the exercise and then do it every morning and every evening for a designated time. I like designated times like Lent and other things because it gives my mind a framework to work around, but that's me.
Yeah. Same.
Okay. The idea is to get to a point of conviction with it. So where you feel as though, okay, I feel like I've done this enough to us where it's at a state of knowing. If you work on your blueprint and you say, okay, say you got a physical one, because I gave people, we gave these out at church with the really good paper.
I'm looking at that. How nice and firm that paper is.
Yeah, this paper is very firm. I wanted it to be. Here's the thing. It couldn't be an abundance life blueprint on flimsy paper. And we're talking about prosperity. So we spent some money. Okay. So when I drew this, one of the things I told Robin was I need this on high quality paper. All right. Because we can't teach this prosperity and go cheat with this type of paper. It didn't make sense. This needed to be able to be put up on a wall or inside your closet or your door, or to be able to do something with it to where if it's private in your drawer where it won't get messed up. Okay. So continue to work with it. Now, I do want to add on the Christ Universal Temple website. It's on the homepage. It says Abundant Life Blueprint. You can click on it and you can download this. It also has scriptures that will support the prosperity idea, and eventually all 5 sermons from this series and all 5 sermon rewinds will exist on this one page. So you can download or print your blueprint, and you can get all of the lessons and all of the scripture references on all the sermon rewinds to support what you are seeking to do as a person understanding and developing your prosperity consciousness. Everything will be there for you to be able to transition from wherever you are to a consciousness of abundance. But it works if you work it. Amen. So I challenge you, if you got the abundance blueprint and you have not done the work, do it. Download it. You can, if you have it on computer, you can put the images in it and stuff you want. If you have a physical one like this one, or it's another one, the one you saw had the darker colors around it. I had 2 versions made. This was my second version that I passed out originally because I just like the lighter green.
Yeah.
Is to make sure that you actually do it. Stop with the perfection. Just dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just dream. What do I really desire for my life? Put it down there. Find images that you can use to support it. I had my wife give me some wallet-sized pictures that I sent her. I want a wallet-sized picture of a particular picture of myself inside my Abundance Life Blueprint. Why? Because I want to be happy. I'm in my suit. I'm laughing. I'm good looking in the picture. So when I see it, I'm like, oh, I remember that moment and how happy I was in that moment. So now I'm also borrowing energy from a former memory.
Yeah. A picture that represents happiness is for you, right? Not it is like, it doesn't have to be the best looking picture. I know we pose and do all kind of things, but if that picture represents joy and happiness, that's a good one to use. That's a very good one to use.
Yeah.
I can't stress what you're saying about just get started, just dream. Like I know Dot shared that she's gonna lemonade her so she can make changes, and I'm gonna say do that, but only if you're gonna just get to it, because I can't tell you how many things I have that are great tools that sit in a drawer. and because I wanted to get ready for them. You know what I mean? Like I forced myself to get ready. And I'll give you guys a digital way to do this. If you are you can't go in there and get that beautiful paper. If you're in Chicago, go to the temple. Y'all got some left?
Yeah, we still have some left.
So there's some left for those who didn't go to church on Sunday. They got it. They got some left. And I'm going to ask them to make them available. So go Sunday and get your blueprint. But for those of us who are part of the collective, because we're not in Chicago, I want to invite you to the practice I did. So what I did is I downloaded the image as an image file, PNG, and then I added it to Canva so I could type in on top of it what I wanted to do, and I put my picture on it. So I used Canva to be able to type mine in. So I'll share that so you can. Oh, I took it away. So
yeah, I also made this 11 by 14, which is bigger than normal size paper, because I didn't want anything to be viewed as small. Again, it was abundance. So
right.
I didn't want it to be something small. It's important that everything had to match up. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you, when I showed this to my daughter, she said, "Dad, you gave that away to the church." I was like, "Hey, we gotta help the people get where they need to be." So she wanted me to trademark this, so I might have to do that down the line to keep my daughter at bay.
I love it. Yeah, it's a fun tool. I mean, like there is the reality is that it's only as good as your use of it, right? Yeah. So we want you to use it. Thank you so much for giving us a tool to help us create that dominant thought that you gave it to us in a few different ways. It was that dominant thought, that dominant image rather. Yeah. The idea of your living reality, like holding on to this idea so that it can become your living reality. And this is one of those tools to make that kind of transformation. So thank you for that. Thank you all for hanging in there. It was important to me to really go through that practice, because we want the idea is to inspire you into right action, right? Like it is. We just want to inspire you into your shift and your change. Listen, I will put a sign on my door if I could do it for you, because that'd be I got a feeling to be a long line, but we can't do it for you. We got to all do it for ourselves. We get to do this thing on our own, and it's really good, but we get to do it together as a community. We get to encourage one another. So what I want you to do, here's my double dog dare, right? For those of you who are part of the collective and you feel comfortable, okay? Take a shot and upload your Abundant Life Blueprint to our Facebook group, right? Share it. I'm gonna post mine before I chicken out as soon as we wrap out. But share your blueprint and let's inspire one another. Give feedback if there's something that you don't understand. Maybe when your question helps me to get clearer. So I'm gonna invite you all to play with me. Don't leave me alone out there with my blueprint out there in the wind. But let's support one another that way. So I'm gonna post it. I'll post it today, and we'll keep on supporting one another as we create a better life for ourselves. That better living part is what we have the opportunity to do. Yeah. Yes. So thank you again for another powerful rewind, Reverend Gaylon, and what we have planned for October during the anniversary month is we got another rewind next week that'll be with Reverend Rod. But then we want to talk about the founding of the church. We want to talk about some of the history and some of the lessons and some of the legends that have come out of CUT. So we'll have a couple of conversations, I think, that will be really fun to talk about this powerful legacy that is it 73 years old?
No. 68, 56 to 2024.
Say it again.
Yeah, we'll be 70 in 2 years.
Okay. All right. 68, the 68-year-old ministry. We're going to celebrate and talk about that amazing life that is Christ Universal Temple. So just stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll be back with you next week. God bless you real good. And again, thank you so much, Reverend Gaylon. We appreciate you more than you know.
Thank you.
God bless. So I will see you all next week. God bless you. Thank you for being here live with us. It was fun.
Amen.